Hello, everybody. Top of the morning. We'll give everyone a chance to show up. That's going to show up. Good morning, Martin. Nice of you to come. Nice of everybody to come. Always appreciate the time, and hopefully we can help you work through some things. A lot of things going on this week. Man, Detroit, what a mess. Running back situation there has gone to hell in a handbasket in pretty short order. Maybe some opportunities to be found. Alvin Kamara is back. Keenan Allen is out. Some things we need to get set right off the bat. Elijah Mitchell's out, but Debo Samuel might be able to play. Good morning, Andrea. What else is going on? Cooper Kupp will be fine. Joe Mixon a little bit dicey. Darren Waller out again this week. So Justin Fields back at quarterback for the Bears of Chicago going up against the Green Bay Packers. Hey, Scott, good to see you. Thanks for everybody for coming. Give everybody just another minute here to round up. I hope everyone's faring well in your leagues. I know Scott is. He's piling up the money in his high stakes tournaments. Great job by him. So week 14 is upon us. I imagine most of us getting close to playoffs. Some leagues, I guess, are already starting them. And we'll get to some of the questions here momentarily. Just want to let people get caught up, get some retweets out there. And again, if you have not subscribed to the channel, I'll be doing stuff all off season too, coming and doing chats and discussing things, maybe having some guests on occasion. That'll be enjoyable. Hit the like button if you would, and we'll get going here. I just want to remind everybody, I'm sure you've all heard the tornadoes, Illinois, Missouri, Arkansas, Tennessee, Kentucky, man, devastating. So if you're in a giving mood, hit the redcross.org up, and those people, man, it's just a mess across those states, and just hate to see it as the holidays approach, and things a lot bigger than just football out there. So jump in, and I hope if anyone's there, has friends or family there, that everything is okay for you. All right. And I hope you didn't. I hope you didn't play against Dalvin Cook, or you did play Dalvin Cook. I guess that's the first question for me to you all is, did you play against Dalvin Cook? Did you play Dalvin Cook? Did you decide not to play Dalvin Cook? Wow. A lot of questions there. All right. My opinion of the Chargers wide receiver situation and Justin Herbert's outlook. I think Herbert will be fine. Keenan Allen, obviously a great player. Jalen Guyton moves up in the rotation. Josh Palmer as well. Guyton maybe gets some favorable coverages there. We'll see if Mike Williams is going to play. My guess is Mike Williams will. Just a guess, because the reporting is people who I'm sure are in contact with him, not naming their sources. I'm guessing he's a source. He's testing negative, and so he was a close contact. As long as he doesn't test positive, he'll be allowed to play. He'll be cleared in time. So not the case in Detroit, obviously, where ain't nobody playing. Jamal Williams went on the list late. Mark Ingram also on the list. Big COVID week. So that'll be something we navigate. So hit your questions up there. But I think Jalen Guyton is maybe a sneaky play. If you're a DFS player, I'm sure a lot of people will be on him. Maybe Josh Palmer's a sneakier play. Maybe the tight ends are the sneakiest play. Jared Cook, Donald Parham, Steven Anderson, all viable plays, for Justin Herbert. Not necessarily for you, although I think Cook and Parham are fine if you're taking a chance or digging deep. So that would kind of be the way I look. I think Justin Herbert should be okay, assuming we have Mike Williams, right? I mean, I think that it all hinges on that. That's my expectation. And, of course, we should mention that Austin Eckler is listed as questionable. Nobody seems really concerned about his availability, so I'm guessing he'll be able to go. And maybe they're just not expressing any concern because they're so concerned about the wide receivers, but I don't think so. I think he'll be ready to go. All right, Martin needs 2. Van Jefferson, Sony Michel, Brandon Cooks, Hasty, Robinson, McKissick. So, I mean, I guess part of this, if you listen to the reporting and the chatter out of Los Angeles, everyone seems to think Sony Michel is going to remain the guy. I kind of think that too, but we won't know that, right, until Monday night. So, some of this is going to be your risk tolerance, maybe what you need. I would love to play Sony Michel in this one. I'd also be tempted to play Van Jefferson along with him. Might go James Robinson. I know it hasn't been great for him, but there sounds like a course correction is coming when the quarterback publicly calls out basically the head coach. I don't know if you've heard the reporting out there today that, the disarray going on in Jacksonville, the level of dysfunction, etc. So Urban Meyer had said, he wasn't the one in charge of keeping James Robinson out of the game after the fumbles. It turns out, according to reporting, that he was. Tom Pelissero from NFL Network. And Trevor Lawrence came out and said, look, this guy needs to be on the field. The only reason that Robinson got back in the game last week was because Lawrence with the sideline said to Urban Meyer, why is this guy not on the field? He's our best player. So I'm guessing a course correction will come. It hasn't been great, and there's nothing in that offense I like a lot, but the volume would be there. I don't have a good feeling about Brandon Cooks with Davis Mills moving back in. Also, Cooks is questionable. Hasty will be playing behind Williams, and McKissick is still a little dicey. Maybe if we hear he's fully cleared at some point today from the concussion or prior to kickoff that he's fully cleared, I would be okay with his role. So probably in that order, it'd be Michelle, Robinson, and McKissick. Kevin O'Brien, good morning. Trying to make the playoffs in 2 leagues. Some tough choices beginning with this. Full PPR, best 2 running backs from A.J. Dillon, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Kareem Hunt, Tony Pollard, or Jeff Wilson. Clyde Edwards-Helaire is the easy choice there. A.J. Dillon's been a high-end flex-level play every single week. I mean, the last 5 weeks, right? And 4 of those weeks, Aaron Jones was there. So I think, he's a pretty safe play at this point. I love – so we have the thing with Cleveland is weird because they just played the same team they're playing 2 weeks ago, right? And it wasn't good, right? But it was Hunt's act. A lot about leaning on the running back, maybe playing them both simultaneously. So I think it'll be playing time. I'm just worried about that offense in general. And so, that's a little bit of a concern. Pollard with the questionable designation, not keen on. So maybe the answer here is Jeff Wilson, who will be the starter for San Francisco. You wonder how much Hasty's going to get. I'm guessing, there is no Elijah Mitchell. There's no Trey Sermon. So it's a narrower band than usual. No Trent Cannon, although he was just playing special teams. So maybe the best 2 answers are Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Wilson as the primary backs for their teams. Not a horrible matchup for the Bengals or against the Bengals for Jeff Wilson, right? So, but Dillon's in that conversation. So I would put those 3 at the top easily, and Hunt and Pollard fall down a little bit. I'm going to be playing Hunt in a lot of leagues, and if I had some of these options, let's say this: if I had Dillon or if I had Wilson, I'd probably be playing him ahead of Hunt right now for sure. And Dillon, maybe it's a little closer question. Deonta Foreman or A.J. Dillon, Martin wants to know. So, listening to the people in Tennessee talk about the running back situation, they think Foreman is going to be the primary guy. I don't know if he's the more explosive play. They seem to think Dontrell Hilliard is that. Also remember, though, that Jeremy McNichols is back, and maybe he, dilutes the workload for both of them a little bit. I'd probably be tempted to play Dillon. Foreman, it's going to be a split in both cases. I just have a little more evidence of what's going on. It was great against the Patriots, right, for Tennessee. Is it going to be that every week? I don't know. I don't have a lot of faith in that. I have a little more evidence that Dillon's going to be good, right? He's been, top 20-ish play, since his role has begun. So I'd probably be more tempted to play Dillon than Foreman in this one. But I do think it's pretty damn close, right? I don't think you'd be wrong to play Dillon. I'm just going to double check the rankings that we have. Yeah, we have Dillon ahead of him. It's a pretty tight bunch, though. So my lean is to Dillon, and the algorithm likes that as well. But Foreman is not a bad answer. Just remember, Jacksonville, does some things okay. They weren't great against the run against Sony Michel last week, so maybe that's the direction you want to go. But in general, they've been pretty good against the run. Hi, Jesse. Is Julio Jones playing? Would you play him over any of these guys? Justin Jefferson already played, so I'm guessing that's a different Jefferson. Maybe you mean Van. James Hasty, Darrell Williams, Ty Johnson, or Jeff Wilson. And if he is a no-go, who to pick up? So we don't know yet on Julio, the first question. My guess is yes. He practiced fully all week. They've got to elevate him by 4 p.m. today. I'd not play him over not a lot of those guys. I'd play a lot of those guys or some of those guys over him. I play Jeff Wilson over him. I'm not sure who the Jefferson you mean is. If it's Van, I probably would. And then, you get into the Jermichael Hasties and Darrell Williams and Ty Johnson. I'm a little less eager. Ty Johnson, he's going to play the lead role. There's no Tevin Coleman this week, so maybe you hang your hat on that, but it's a tough matchup, right, against the Saints. So that would be a concern for me with Ty Johnson. And the mighty Austin Walter is there too. So would probably play Jefferson, assuming it's Van. Definitely Jeff Wilson, and probably Van Jefferson over him in those cases. Andrea needs a flex. Deontay Foreman, Elijah Moore, Brandon Ayuk. I'd probably play Foreman in that case. I'd like to play more, but he's questionable, and I don't know how healthy he is, and it's a relatively tough matchup. I think if you're swinging for the fence and Moore is available, that might be the way to go. But I think Foreman is a solid floor play. Look, I like Brandon Ayuk more than I should. And, he seemed to be gaining some momentum. It wasn't great last week. George Kittle really was the guy who picked up the pace with Deebo Samuel out. Deebo might be back this week, so a little concerned about Ayuk. I mean, I think he's a reasonable play, but not high end to me. Scott, yes, definitely. I hope if anyone out there is in the mood to help or give in this holiday season, again, redcross.org is a good starting point. With Keenan out and Mike Williams expected to play, is there any value? I think there's more value. Trigger Finger Studios to Guyton. That's all the observers. He's a little higher up in the pecking order. Also, I'm guessing he will play, or the expectation seems to be he'll play more in the slot. He'll fill the Keenan Allen role basically. So a lot of time in the slot, which is the favorable matchup in this game, or the more favorable matchup in this game. So I would play him. I don't think Josh Palmer's an unreasonable play, but I think Guyton leads the way there. Okay, need a streamer, says Brad Stewart, with Waller out again. Jared Cook or Austin Hooper. So Baltimore's horrible against tight ends. And all of a sudden, Cleveland doesn't have a lot of tight ends, right? Normally it's 3 tight ends. Well, they're down 2. Harrison Bryant and David Njoku are both out. Njoku with the COVIDs. And Bryant with an ankle injury that may keep him out a while. So I'm not against Hooper. This is like one of the first weeks that I'm kind of a pro Hooper guy. I just think it's a good situation for him in terms of matchup and the other pieces being out. It's also a good week for Cook, right? Cincinnati, not great guns, also against the tight end, but also, with Allen out. So, I'm probably leaning Cook there. But it's the slightest of leans. I mean, honestly, I can make a really strong argument for either of them. The algorithm likes Hooper a little better. So I'm going to go with that because the matchup is the Baltimore has been horrible against tight ends. And if you remember early in the year, we thought it was because they were going against really high end tight ends. Turns out every tight end. So I'm going to go in that direction, Hooper, especially with the other 2 tight ends out. I think that works in his favor. First of a couple today, Paul DeSantis wants to know thoughts on Julio this week and the rest of the season. I think Julio's going to be essentially what he was, not reliable and not a consistent weekly high-end producer. I think like right now maybe is a good opportunity. It's a great matchup for the passing attack. Jacksonville doesn't have a lot of good cornerback play, so I like him this week in his first game back. We're assuming he's going to play. You'll have to watch. The deadline's 4 p.m. today. I'll have that on the footballdiehards.com website. By the way, Football Diehards, it's a website where I work. You could go there and find all kinds of news and information on an ongoing basis throughout the week, right up through each kickoff window. We'll have the inactives, etc. Also, right now, you'll find the first pass, Casey Joyner's Saturday edition of the Sit Start Injury Report that digs a little deeper on the injuries. I'll have my injury video up after I do this chat, so I'll run through all the fantasy-specific injuries. But Casey digs a little deeper, looks at some of the key defensive and offensive line issues that maybe impact your player. So really good stuff there. But I guess, just in general, it hasn't been great, Paul. So, I mean, I'm not like all in. I'm not all out either. I mean, I think there's a spot for him, but probably, expecting him to produce wide receiver 3 numbers every single week, has proven to be a stretch. But that's where I'd be playing him as a wide receiver 3. That'd be my expectation, or maybe my hope more than expectation. Brian. Desperation time. Oh, yes. Crowder, Boyd, Westbrook, Akini, Rondale Moore. Needs wide receiver. Need one of these guys, it looks like. I'd probably go Crowder, given the circumstances, right? Corey Davis is out. Elijah Moore, not at full speed if he goes. Listed as questionable. It's got a quad injury, so it seems like he's heading towards playing. But even so, I'd probably go Crowder. It's a pretty slim receiving room, right? I mean, right now you're looking at beyond Moore and Crowder, you've got Keelan Cole, who can make an occasional play. He's not horrible, but not high end, right? Denzel Mims, who has struggled to break the lineup. And, I mean, just, not a lot there. Braxton Berrios could very well end up being a busy guy. But I'd probably play, that makes Crowder some appeal. So for me, it's between Crowder and Boyd. And I think pretty sure T. Higgins will be playing. It's a late afternoon kickoff for that one, so you won't know if maybe something happens with Higgins and he has a setback before you need to know on Crowder or Boyd or Crowder. So I'd probably lean Crowder in that one. Full point PPR, says Brad Stewart. Montgomery or Connor? I know Edmonds is back this week. Well, we don't actually know Edmonds is back this week. We know he's designated to return. My expectation is he's back. You probably won't know he's back until Monday when they have to add him to the active roster. Haven't heard any negative reporting on his practice time this week. So I think your guess. So he, seems to be heading back. That said, I mean, do they take the role that Connor, do they take away that momentum that Connor has? I don't know that they do, right? So I'm playing Connor with confidence this week. That said, I'd probably play Montgomery ahead of him myself. Let's see what the algorithm, how much the algorithm agrees with that. Mostly playing the certain volume, I think a little more. The algorithm is much more, not much higher. 11 for Connor, 14 for Montgomery. I feel a little more confident in the workload, not knowing. I mean, and maybe it's just the mystery of, wow, what's Edmonds going to do? Well, Edmonds might not do anything, right? It's his first week back. They might slow roll him back, right? We saw that with Hopkins last week. He was not very busy in that game. Of course, they didn't pass much in that game. So yeah, I'm not like I said, Brad, I'm not dialing back on Connor in the leagues I have him in. I thought I was pretty encouraged by Montgomery last week. I thought he played a lot better than I expected, and maybe that's some of this, right? Not really chasing points, chasing volume, and he's getting that. So if you like him in that order, I'm fine. I don't think there's a wrong answer here. Again, 11 and 14 in our rankings. So you're in a pretty good position there either way. But that's the direction I go. I should say this right now, my weekly disclaimer. If you have a hunch and I'm going against your hunch, play your hunch, right? That's the fun of fantasy football. I mean, I'm sitting here being conservative and logical and chasing volume because it's, 99% of the time the wise course of action. But you're going to sit there on Monday and go, damn it, I knew I should have played so-and-so. And he said the other guy. Well, man, if you should play so-and-so, it's your team. I mean, I'm going to talk you through and I'm going to lay out the logical reasons why. But if you have a gut feeling or a hunch or some kind of instinct telling you to the contrary, you've been watching football a long time, so especially on a situation like, let's say, Montgomery and Connor, where it is so close. Like if you have a feeling, is the Rams defense a little bit tougher than Green Bay's defense? It is. Yeah. Right. So, but the Cardinals are playing well. He's on a roll. So, I mean, this is not a exact science, right? It's a little bit of a black art where, we're going on our feelings to some degree, especially when we're talking about players within the same tier. So, disclaimer out of the way. Oh, let's see here. Where are we at? Scott Kobe has Dalvin Cook in 3 leagues and played him in all 3. Didn't play against him at all. Man, if you played against Dalvin Cook, that's a hole to dig out of, right? And that's something else that might shape how you set your lineup, right? If you're playing from way behind or playing with a huge lead, that might adjust how you approach your lineup. So give that some thought as well. Hi, Steve Atwood. Hello, fellow drummer. I think Russell Wilson this week. I think Russell Wilson is good this week. I like him. It's a great matchup, or not a great matchup. Texans have been playing better on defense, but man, they've still got some issues. Their offense does not help them out at all. I don't think they're going to help them out. How should I say this? I think they will help them out even less, if that's possible. Wow, that seems like a reach if it's less. But that you get the point. I think this is a good get right game for him. And like it wasn't horrible last week, right? He ended up with a couple touchdowns. So I'm probably playing him. I'm a little more enthusiastic about him. Down the stretch, I need to look at his schedule down the stretch because I have not, I'm going to admit. And I probably should have. Seattle. It's Houston, then the Rams, and then the Bears. So, I mean, it's not overly daunting. So, I mean, look, I think Russell Wilson is solid. You'd like to think this offense hits stride. But, I'd like to have thought that all along, and it just doesn't, right? So, that's the concern for me right there with Wilson. I mean, I think I could play him any week. I also think every week I'm looking for a better option. Like, aren't we all? This is like the story of fantasy football. looking for better options. And what is a better option? Is like, so, when you're sitting here and you're looking into these weeks, sometimes it's hard to divorce the name from the numbers, as I like to say. You look away and you look at who's playing better, and you can see, like, it'd be the same, like, when you're considering Patrick Mahomes. I mean, do you keep playing that name, or do you play someone who's playing better? It's a tough call. Lamar Jackson is not playing well. Do you keep playing him until he gets right? And so I think with Russell, where a lot of us are playing, and it's that fear of missing out. The kids call that the FOMO. We know the first time we put this asset on our bench is the first time it's going to go off. My serious co-host, Mike Dempsey, often does a sacrificial benching, which we can do because we're in a lot of leagues, right? You're in 29 leagues, right? So I have a lot of shares of a player. Maybe in one league, I just bench him just to get it out of the way, right? just to say, I benched him. I feel better about myself. And sometimes that gets, it's all for our own mental well-being. These players are going to do what they're going to do, right? So it's just like Michael Fabiano, my co-host on Fantasy Dirt, co-manager. We're in a league together. We co-manage. And we had Najee Harris going in the game against Minnesota. And he just starts, oh, we're doomed. We're losing. And then Najee Harris comes up with the 2 touchdowns. I said, see, why were you worried? He goes, well, no, it's my credit that I fixed it by bad-mouthing him, right? I mean, that's how we play all these mental games with ourselves, is my point here. So, so I do think Russell Wilson is in line for a good week this week. I think in general, this offense is not working as well as we like. And it's a problem we shouldn't overlook it, Steve. Scott, JaMychal Hasty or Darrell Williams fill in for Jonathan Taylor in PPR. Probably Darrell Williams still for me. I just don't know how much we get. I think Williams' role has been reasonably good. It's a great matchup against the Raiders defense for him and Clyde Edwards-Helaire. More for Clyde Edwards-Helaire because he's a first man up. But I think we saw Williams get enough of a workload that I'd feel confident in him. Just don't know what to make of Hasty, really. I mean, maybe we get a whole bunch of them. Maybe Jeff Wilson's knee is no good, but I'm not going to hang my hat on that. Andrea needs one flex from Deontay Foreman, Jalen Guyton, Jarvis Landry, Dontrell Hilliard. So the question is between Foreman and Hilliard, the 2 teammates. It's a half-point PPR. Might go with Foreman in this one. Last week they were both fantastic. And I mentioned this earlier in the chat is, are we convinced that Jeremy McNichols comes back and has no role at all? Or does he cut into Hilliard's receiving role, which, man, has been great. And Hilliard has been kind of a revelation. He's been extremely successful, since his promotion from the practice squad, right? Do they keep rolling with that? My guess is I would. So my gut feeling is yes. The people who observe the team locally, think he has demonstrated something. Teron Davenport from ESPN suggested as much as well. So when I say this, I have these feelings about things. Some of that is based on reporting on the ground. I am studying every person who's covering these teams pretty closely as I do my news and notes throughout the week. So I mean, that's the kind of the expectation there. So probably Foreman for me in this case, but in a half-point PPR, maybe Hilliard is the better call. I mean, I think it's that close. This might be your gut instinct, Andrea, but it's one of those 2 for me. Iron Eddie, full PPR, Jeff Wilson, Tyler Boyd, or wait for Sony Michel Monday night with no pivot. I don't like to wait for guys with no pivot. Yeah, I'm probably like 90% sure they go with the same plan. But maybe that's me expressing my desire. It's also every local observer expressing their desire. Everyone's asked Sean McVay about it. The drumbeat is building. I know Gary Klein reported in the LA Times this morning that seems to be the direction they're going to take. And maybe just to get Darrell Henderson fully healthy, if nothing else, right? And so some of the things that Sean McVay said earlier in this week point to this as well. Like, talked a little bit about Michel being a rhythm runner, needing the carries, etc., to get in rhythm and get rolling. So I kind of have a thing for Sony, but also I kind of have a thing for playing it safe. So maybe some of this Iron Eddie depends on where you're at. I think Jeff Wilson is a reasonable play either way. And I don't know that Michel is a huge upside play either in this one. I mean, he's got to, the game script's got to work in his favor, which it did last week. If they fall behind, is he, as big a part of the passing attack, or do they keep looking downfield to the outside assets there? Cooper Kupp, certainly, Van Jefferson, Odell Beckham, Tyler Higbee, all on hand if they have to start throwing. And that's kind of been their, overarching history, right? Is they're going to end up being more pass heavy. So game script could be a factor as well. So there are multiple things working for and against Sony Michel. and that Jeff Wilson isn't dealing with. So I think Jeff Wilson is a safe play to me. And Sony Michel is maybe the more desirable play, but with the obvious downside that you've kind of outlined there, no pivot, right? And so also don't be scared if Darrell Henderson is active. He was active last week and didn't play a snap, right? So the Michel momentum is clearly building, and it's just that's going to be a you call, Iron Eddie. Austin Hooper or Gerald Everett in a PPR. So I like Austin Hooper this week. I mentioned this earlier a little bit. I think it's a good matchup. And also, there's no other tight ends. I say it kind of jokingly. But, when you have 3 tight ends, you don't have any from a fantasy perspective. The Browns have had 3 tight ends all season long. And just when you think somebody might be gaining a little momentum, the fact that they are 3 becomes readily apparent again. They're not 3 right now. They're 1. That one is Austin Hooper. So I'm probably leaning in that direction given the matchup. And maybe he'll catch all the balls, Gerald Hooper. So you could also make an argument for Gerald Everett getting a course correction game right from Russell Wilson. They're very close off the field, worship together. So I mean, there's that, and Russell Wilson might want to get his friend on track. So, but I'm going Hooper. See what does the algorithm say, Scott? Sometimes I don't always agree with that. Yeah, they're 15 and 16 on the list with Everett one ahead. So I'm playing my hunch on that one. Okay, Mark Spafford, my thoughts on Darrell Henderson's workload with Michel and are both startable in PPR. So I think I went through that just a moment ago on the last question. I don't think they're both startable, right? I mean, I don't think Henderson is until I see that he's getting some form of his role back. So I think Michel, probably is. If I had to decide between the two, my hunch is Michel right now. I don't think Henderson comes back to that same workload. I think Michel will get a similar workload. I think ideally he gets they continue to let Henderson get better. That's my desire, and that's the desire of the people who cover the team. I don't know that that's Sean McVay's desire. Although, again, things he has said, some of his quotes have suggested that that's the direction he's leaning. But that's all we have, Mark, is, we're not going to have that certainty. I'd be looking for more clear-cut plays myself in advance of that. And if I don't have them and you made me pick one of those two, it'd be Michel right now, and that's my hunch. And you should play yours, as I also said earlier. But you should share in my hunch because it's probably right. George, half-point PPR, who to flex this week? Rashad Penny, Russell Gage, Julio Jones, MVS, Jamar Jefferson, or Nick Westbrook. Any chance to split between Sony and Darrell Henderson? Yeah, I'm sure you've heard my Sony Michel, Darrell Henderson take to the point of nauseum, so I'll leave that go. So, how brave are you? The Jamar Jefferson play wants to know. I mean, there's no other. He's the top guy. Godwin, Igwe, Buke is in the mix as well. And, either one of them, I suppose, could get a hot hand, but I'm guessing Jefferson is the guy we've seen more of when he's been healthy. And so I'm thinking he's the first man up. The problem there is obvious. The Lions, are they going to be, they want to run the football. We know that. Dan Campbell wants to hand the ball off. Are they going to be in that position in this game against Denver to continue running the ball? I think Denver is like, an 8-point favorite. They'll probably have the lead most of the game. They're going to run. So maybe that's a little bit of maybe that's part of it, right? Are you worried about the game script? Penny is a little hard for me. Russell Gage has been coming on. Julio Jones, first game back. MVS has been decent. Man, as I look through that list, Jefferson is the guy with the opportunity to me. I'd probably cash in on that. Beyond that, I know they're saying Rashad Penny will have a bigger role this week. So Adrian Peterson's not going to play. He's not on the injury report, but because he's not on the roster, right? He's a practice squad player until they promote him. And Pete Carroll said yesterday he won't play. He has a lower back issue. So you're down to Collins, and Travis Homer's out. So Collins, DJ Dallas, and Penny, and Pete Carroll is saying they seem to be determined to get Rashad Penny a big role. I just don't trust that. So he'd probably be down a little bit for me. I like Gage's workload in recent weeks. I don't think this is the best matchup for him, though. So I'm going Jefferson here. I've beaten it to death. Tamika, hello. How are you? Good to see you. And all is well. No Waller again. Should I start Moreau or Seals Jones? I think this week we're all going to run away from Moreau because it's the last week, and this is the week he comes back and kind of has his usual game that he's had without Waller. I want to say to me, he feels like the safer play than Seals Jones. We're ranking them 12 and 13. Moreau one ahead, so I'm going to go with that. The problem for me with Ricky Seals Jones is we haven't seen him for a few weeks, right? He's been out with his injury. He's going to be back this week. He's off the injury report, and he practiced, fully late in the week. Started out limited. Logan Thomas isn't an issue, so I get it. I'm probably going Moreau in this one myself, and hoping the Raiders are in position to play catch up with a Chiefs offense that rebounds nicely. Seattle or New Orleans D. I'm playing New Orleans defense in that one. I mean, they're both, I totally get why you'd want to play Seattle as well. And Seattle's defense, to their credit, has been playing better. We go on. The thing we see to start the season is the thing we tend to see all season, even if it changes. And so it looks like I'm frozen over there. So things evolve, right? Teams that weren't good. Hopefully that helped a little bit. Sorry about that. Nobody likes being frozen up. So going back to the last one, if I was frozen up, I'm going with New Orleans, but I like them both. Kevin O'Brien, the second league, needs help deciding this time. 0.5 PPR, running back 2 choice from Hunt, Hilliard, Foreman, Gordon, Wilson. I'm probably going Jeff Wilson. I am a volume chaser, anticipated volume chaser. He is, to me, the likely starter, almost certain starter, with Elijah Mitchell ruled out. I know his knee was a little bit of an issue, but he made it off the injury report and practiced fully late in the week. So I'm going that direction. I think the rest of these are all like suitable plays. They're all sharing, right? And so I don't know how. I think the reason I'm going with Wilson is because he's probably sharing the least of this bunch, right? So that would be my interest in him. If I'm ranking them after that, I probably like them almost in the order you have them. Let me see what the rankings say. Yeah, I kind of like them basically in the order. Yep, I like them in the order you have them after that. The Hilton, the Hilliard Foreman. I mean, it could go either way since the half point maybe slightly into Hilliard, but there you have it. So Wilson for me, and the rest of those guys in the order you have them, Kevin. Scott, the weekly Justin Herbert or somebody else question. Honestly, dude, you have great plays every week. I mean, it's your call. I'm probably leaning Herbert over those guys, and the answer is not Justin Herbert or Justin Fields, but I'm leaning Herbert again over Stafford. And maybe you feel a lot better about Stafford because he has all his weapons. That's perfectly suitable. Julio or Jamison Crowder in a PPR? I'm probably going Crowder. I mean, I just don't know what to expect from Julio week to week, and almost maybe more on the passing attack week to week, right? Just don't know what to expect. Great matchup though, right? So, if your hunch is better, and maybe wait and see if there is no Elijah Moore. I would love Crowder. I would like Crowder more. How about that? If there was no Elijah Moore, right? So, maybe you watch that decision and helps inform your decision. Not anti-Julio, just not excited, enthusiastic about the Titans passing attack, even in a super favorable matchup. The updated news on Chase Edmonds is he's practicing, and that's all. There's no updated news. You're probably not going to get – the Cardinals don't have to activate him until Monday, and they might do it sooner, but they don't have to. And in most cases, teams don't do it until they have to. So it'd be a couple hours before kickoff on Monday. But he is practicing, and I haven't heard anything negative at all. Just you don't know the level of participation or anything because he's not on the roster right now. He's designated to return from IR. He's still on IR. So all these guys like Julio Jones, you're counting on reporters on the ground. I've had a lot more information on Julio's practices than I have on Edmonds' practices. But as a general rule, not hearing anything tends to be a good sign. Tyson Casey, word is that Sony has COVID and won't play. Okay, we'll see. Second flex spot in a half-point PPR. Ayuk, Darrell Williams, or pick up Crowder. This is a case where I'd probably play Ayuk, but I wouldn't talk you out of picking up Crowder. I mean, we'll see. Deebo Samuel could come back. I don't know if that isn't almost good news for Ayuk. He's a little better. He was gaining the momentum with Samuel in play. And Samuel, a lot of his work was coming as a runner and not as a pass catcher during that span. So Darrell Williams, I do think, is a reasonable play, Paul, in this game. So we have that going for us. If you're putting me to put me to it, I'm probably leaning Ayuk. I'd probably go in the order you have them, and picking up Crowder, assuming I don't have to drop anybody, isn't a bad pickup anyway. JR1616. I hope you're well. I am. Ayuk or Jeff Wilson? Jeff Wilson. That's an easy call for me. I'm chasing the volume there. The algorithm I speak of, Don, is the algorithm we used at the website that calculates with the matchup, the previous production, the volume, calculates all these things, and that's how we use the baseline of our rankings. Then Emil and I go in and we adjust, based on some of our feelings and the latest developments. A lot of these rankings are changed based on, obviously, the news and things. Guys are dropped down when their situations arise, whether they're ruled out or, based on their injury status or their practice status. So, but that is the algorithm. It's how we start the basis of our rankings. We have a system that Emil designed. Emil Cadlick behind the scenes, rubbing his hands together as he thinks of these things. San Francisco 2-point favorites. Cincinnati this week. What am I missing? Is Mixon out? No, Mixon is not out. He's questionable. I mean, he doesn't feel good. He's had an illness all week. So, and Higgins is also beat up, and Joe Burrow is playing with a bad pinky finger. But seems like there's more guys out on San Francisco than me. But, as well as I do, Donnie, Vegas is very smart. I'm playing Matt Stafford, Andrea, over Russell Wilson. And that one I like is a much easier call for me than Scott's call, the weekly Herbert or Stafford, because they're so close. And this one, for me, Stafford's a little bit separated, a little more easily separated. Look, Russell Wilson might have a great game against Houston, who are playing better defense, than I think people realize. But it's, they obviously haven't been great, and they're not getting help from their offense. So I get it. But I'm playing Stafford this week, Andrea. What are my thoughts on Taysom Hill? And do you think once the game gets out of hand, does Trevor Siemian come in because of the finger? I'm not playing him like that. I'm playing Taysom Hill because he scores 20 points a game, because he's a good runner. And this week it's a lousy matchup. They've seen him in practice all week, Scott, right? And they're willing to let him roll. I mean, I don't, if the game gets out of hand, how did it get out of hand? Did Taysom Hill have a part of that? Probably so. Alvin Kamara will probably have a part of that too. So Donnie, yes, McNichols is back. As we talked about earlier, we don't know how much that's going to impact Dontrell Hilliard, if at all, but it's something we need to watch, and we did address it. Let's see. Rocco, Moreau, Higbee, or the Cleveland tight end. That would be Hooper. So, I've talked about this a few times. I'll talk about it again quickly. I kind of like Hooper this week because the matchup's great and there's no other tight ends, right? There's no David Njoku. There's no Harrison Bryant. So I think that's good news for Hooper. I like Moreau, though, as well. I think, last week is going to scare a lot of people off. It's understandable. So I wouldn't talk you out of that. So I like them on the rankings as Moreau, Higbee, and Hooper. Hooper is my hunch play, though, of that group. And they're all pretty tightly bunched right outside the top, right outside the top 10, right at the, I think, 12 14, and 16. And the rankings would have that Moreau, Higbee, and Hooper in that order. A lot of people think Foreman is the guy because he's been the guy, and he still may be the guy. We just don't know what McNichols is going to do his first week back. Does he cut into Foreman's workload, Don, or does he cut into Dontrell Hilliard's? Does he cut into anybody since they had a lot of success with it last time? I think that's the issue. Nobody's really sure who the guy is, I don't think. So that's my take. Need to replace Waller, 1 point PPR. Higbee, Moreau, or Hooper. I think I just answered that one. Yes, I did. I need 2 running backs, Hilliard, CEH, James Robinson, or Chuba Hubbard, full point PPR. Well, CEH is the easy call there. I might give Chuba Hubbard a shot. I think the one thing we know for sure is Carolina is going to try to run. Jeff Nixon, the new offensive coordinator, is the new offensive coordinator because Joe Brady didn't run the ball enough. It's pretty simple. And so Amir Abdullah is in the mix there, right? And so James Robinson, I think, is, I've talked about it earlier, course correction coming. When the quarterback has gone public with his demands that the best player on the offense be on the field, and it is James Robinson. I expect we'll see a lot of James Robinson. Also, it hasn't been great, and it's not the most favorable matchup. So, and Robinson's off the injury report this week. So if you wanted to go him over Chuba Hubbard, I think that is certainly a fine play. I'm going to slow roll James Robinson a little bit and make sure, it's just not a great offense, right? I don't know that Carolina's is, but it's a really great matchup. MJK2288, Cook, Fant, Hooper, or Moreau. I think we kind of have been through this. I think of this group, Fant has I'd probably go Fant. I think of my rankings would be Fant, Moreau, Cook, and Hooper, or Hooper and Cook. And I think, maybe if Mike Williams is out as well as Keenan Allen, that might change the dynamic, but I don't know if you have to decide then what do you got. Yeah, you have other afternoon options. So if you want to wait on Fant, you can wait and see there, and Moreau. So all your options would be wide open. So maybe if there's no Mike Williams, that would be the direction to go is Cook. Guyton, Palmer, or Emmanuel Sanders. It would probably be Guyton for me. I missed one. I'm sorry. Probably Guyton for me, Nick Obi, in PPR. I think he assumes more of Allen's workload than Palmer. And Sanders, it's just been hit or miss, right? Graham F. Hello. Russell Gay or Brandon Cooks. Yeah. It's not good. I just don't have a lot of faith in that offense, right? And also, he's questionable. I'm probably going to play Gage. It's not a great matchup for him either. I'm probably going to play Gage, though, and hope for the best. Wouldn't talk you out of Cooks. I think when you're playing Cooks right now, you're playing his athletic ability and playmaking ability, right? You're not playing this offense. You're not playing his quarterback. And, so that makes him, to me, a little more swing for the fence play. So maybe that's what you're looking at here. Are you looking for a solid floor or a swing for the fence play? Gage is the floor for me. And just, it wasn't great early in the year, but the workload has come on nicely. And, teams are focused a little more on Kyle Pitts and Cordero Patterson. Maybe that's making a little room for Gage. I'd probably go that. Again, not the best matchup for him. Javonte Williams with Gordon playing or Sony Michel with Henderson active. Well, Henderson was active last week. It was pretty good for Michel. I'd probably still play Javonte Williams and hope that he plays more of a leading role. But I think with either Williams or Michel, hoping for last week's role is all we get to do. All right. Expecting it seems like a bit of a reach, especially if both those other guys are active. I think the thing you have with Michel is Henderson was active last week and didn't do a damn thing. I'm sure he's healthier this week. Maybe they want to keep him healthy, and maybe they want to carry on the role with Michel. I've talked about it before. I'll say it one more time. Reading between the lines, what Sean McVay said, I think he's leaning towards Michel. Listening to the local observers, I think they think he's leaning towards Michel. I also think they believe it should be Michel. So, when you're following these local reporters, that's part of it, right? What are they advocating for? What do they want to happen? Well, they want to happen what, Peter King once said, do reporters root for teams? No, they root for their stories. They root for the things they predicted or write about to come true. And a lot of people are writing positive things about Michel. So, their stories tend to lean that way. So you have to kind of measure that in. Myself, I'm probably playing Javonte Williams, though, of that duo. Guyton, Palmer, I did that one. Daryl Williams, hi, Nick. One more from you. Daryl Williams, Austin Hooper, David Johnson, Godwin Buke, or Jamar Jefferson. So I'm probably leaning Jefferson in this case. I think he's the first guy off the bench, but it's dicey, right? It's not a good offense, and they're not a good team, and Buke is in the mix, right? Buke, I should say that right. Buke. So, I mean, it's probably like I'm not eager to play David Johnson. I could play Daryl Williams. I mean, I think, but just so my hunch here is Jamar Jefferson gets the primary role and gets the first chance to do something, and maybe he does something with it. The thing I like about Detroit's offense is Dan Campbell keeps it. He wants to run the football, right? Even with Jared Goff playing reasonably well last week, or at least, getting the win and throwing some touchdowns. So I'm going Jefferson of this group. I think next up for me would probably be Williams. And again, I do like Hooper, but it's a little hunchy on my part. Dennis Mental, full PPR, Hasty, Burkhead, Bateman, James Robinson, Guyton, E. Sanders, Darrell Williams. Pick 4. Robinson, Guyton, Williams. I mean, Burkhead's been getting a good workload. It's just doesn't do anything with it, right? So, David Johnson's back this week, so I'm probably dialing back on that. I'd probably go Sanders as well. Wouldn't talk you out of Hasty, though. MVS, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Traquan Smith, Guyton, or Palmer. Just one? You need to narrow that down for me. I'm probably trying to play the opportunity and go with Guyton. I think Traquan Smith is not a bad play either. And Amon-Ra St. Brown was fantastic last week, right? It just seems like it's hard for those receivers to repeat anything there. Wilson Jr., Godwin Igwe-Buike, or Jamar Jefferson. Wilson Jr. there. During draft season, I do not. I look at them very rarely, Scott. So the question is, during draft season, do you look at bye weeks at all? Very rarely. And so I had this question the other night on the radio show, and it's called the Football Diehards. It's on Sirius XM Fantasy Sports Radio. You can listen to that tonight from 5 to 7 Eastern time. It'll be great. Then, if you missed that one, from 8 to 11 Eastern time, we're on NFL Radio, channel 88 on your Sirius XM dial, and we'll talk about all these things and more and take your calls. But the question was, the week 14, some playoffs are starting, and if teams are having their bye this week, if you had Jonathan Taylor, you're pretty bummed out that he's not playing this week, right? So I get that. I don't pay attention, though. I guess the short answer is, unless, especially in my best ball leagues at the onesie positions, for the obvious reason, I'm looking at those. If I'm getting more than one onesie play, the quarterbacks, tight ends, etc., I'm paying attention. Otherwise, I don't pay attention to it at all. Graham F. Yeah, that's so. I didn't want to give that too much attention, Graham F, because I also have seen no evidence of that, and I've seen no reporting on it. So I think we'll just leave that be for now. We can always watch. If it happens, it happens. There's plenty of time to adjust. So there we have that. And I also think so far it's been a lousy issue. Thank you, Don. Appreciate you, man. Don Terminiello, people. A great, great fantasy player for many, many years. CEH, Jeff Wilson, or Sony, PPR. CEH. I like him in that, probably like him about in that order, just because, I think if we knew for sure Sony was the guy and getting the full workload again, we'd all be eager to play him. But even then, I would probably be leaning CEH. Are the cats getting along with the dog? Not yet. Not really. It's tough. The dog is laying right next to me. The cats are upstairs. There's a little more interaction, but it's not pleasant interaction when it happens. And I don't know if they're ever going to be friends. The dog is a little bit enthusiastic at the greetings. The cat's not as enthusiastic about being greeted. So there you have it. It's tough. It may take some time. And it's already been some time. So we'll see. Evan Spiegelman, Jeff Wilson or Chuba. That's a good one, man. My initial reaction is, right off the bat is Chuba. But Wilson is not a bad play, right? So I rank them 23 and 25 with Hubbard having the slight lead. I'm probably going to stick with that. The matchup's really good. Not horrible for either of them. Dynasty League, Paul DeSantis asks, win and he gets a bye, needs 2 of these, Wilson, Van Jefferson, Gallup, Landry, or Knox. Wilson would be one for sure. I probably like the rest of them in the order you have them. Landry was pretty good against Baltimore 2 weeks ago. I'm probably still going with Van Jefferson. And thank you, MJ, for the MJK 2288 for asking about the Cats. Oh, yeah. Well, yeah. So, JR, and that's one of the things. And if you're not following along, you should be subscribed to the website, footballdiehards.com. If you aren't, go there, subscribe, use the promo code Diehards to get a discount. I think we already prorate this, so you just get the rest of the season, get a little taste, and see what you're going to want going next year. I mean, we're here to help you be the best informed manager in your league. Part of it is this. We do a lot of other video content, have a lot of great writers, a lot of great DFS content. Jamie Calandro, myself, Justin Lanero, John Lobb, the scholar, his DraftKings sheet of knowledge, and Jason Brady on the video end of things as well with Jamie Calandro doing great stuff. So tons of content every week, starting early in the week with our waiver wire information. Joe Kalana putting up his early injury report Monday with the waiver information. Evan Tarciano, the waiver wire wizard, fills that out. Matthew Sharon dives a little deeper. So got that, set that up in bed. Don't forget, man, I've really been enjoying Reginald James does a commissioner column. I'm not a commissioner in any of my leagues, and I still love his column. He does great work, and I really enjoy the column. So check that out as well. Tons of stuff at footballdiehards.com. Also, listen to us on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio, Monday night at 10, Thursday night at 10. Saturdays, we're on at 7 p.m. Eastern time. What is it? I'm sorry, 5 to 7. I get confused with time zone. 5 to 7 Eastern time on SiriusXM Fantasy. Then we take an hour break, and Dempsey and I jump on NFL radio for 3 hours of Football Diehards, taking your calls, having great guests, discussing all these things. So, and if we do have Henderson news, any news we get, we'll be talking about it. Just seeing now, Ian Rappaport, the Titans plan to activate Julio off IR, which has kind of been the expectation, right? So the hamstring is healed. He's ready for the stretch run is what Rappaport is saying. So there you go, a little information there. And we'll be getting this information throughout the day, and I'll be putting it up on the website at footballdiehards.com. And you'll be able to find everything you need there at any given time. So appreciate you checking that out. Also appreciate you coming to watch this video. Subscribe to this channel and hit the like button on the video because the YouTube algorithm likes that. Donnie wants to know, going forward, is the way we can deal with this COVID situation as far as players being ruled out by a week of game, how about letting us have the players' average points even if they don't play? I mean, that's going to be an individual league call, right? I think, as long as this goes on and it gets more difficult to deal with this season, we're seeing that as the season goes on. Maybe there are some creative ways. I think that's a creative idea. I don't know. I think there are going to be people in your league who are going to resist that, right? I'm just trying to think of the people I play with who would be very resistive to that. I mean, you got to deal with it. But one thing you should be doing, though, is having more room on your rosters, having more IR spots and the ability to be more flexible with your lineups, maybe more flex plays, right? Maybe more flex positions in your lineup so you can have more maneuverability within a week. Andrea, thank you. I always appreciate your presence here. Damien, J.F. Wilson or Devonta Freeman. Devonta Freeman's been good. It's crazy, right? I'm going to lean Freeman. And so he's been super solid. I think we set the control of the Wayback Machines to 2016 somehow. And I'm going to say, there's no doubt, Damien, I was skeptical of all the veterans they brought in. And I thought maybe Latavius Murray had the best chance. Clearly, Freeman has more sizzle, and he's going to be the guy they go with. And it's going to be a run-heavy offense, and especially if Lamar Jackson isn't playing extremely well as a passer. So I like Freeman either way, though. Can we get the players' average go if they're out as far as COVID goes? I think. Yeah, I think there's something to be said for additional rules changes, right, to help us get through these times. But again, it's like going to be a league by league decision, and some of this is going to be your ability to convince other managers in your league who maybe aren't as impacted on a given week as you are. It's going to be something to do on the off season, right? Start working on during the off season and trying to come up with some ways. I think the starting point I've been at Donnie, is in the leagues I'm in, is just more roster room and more roster flexibility, more flex plays. I think is very helpful just alone. But, surely if there's more creative ways, I think it's going to be hard. I think in the leagues I play in, I'd be hard pressed to convince people that an average score is something that they're going to want to put in there. They're going to want a player in there and maybe making it easier. So, but we're all getting burnt, right? How are my leagues going, and what is my preference of league formats in terms of scoring? I'm, kind of traditionalist in that I like PPR. I've been playing it a long time. And so I'm doing okay. I'm in a lot of leagues, so some of it sorts itself out as I go through it. I just keep making lineups until they don't let me anymore. But I'm having more success than I expected. I think I'm heading into the playoffs in well over half, so I'm excited about that. But I kind of have to wait for it to sort out. I just have too much to, focus on, especially with the workload at footballdiehards.com, where you'll see I'm up to something every single minute of every single day. You're good because you've been here since day one, Don. You were back there on the message boards in the early days. You've been here all along. Dusty Hirsch, hey Dusty, Pitts or Dawson Knox, 1 point PPR. Dawson Knox all day for me. Look, I mean, Pitts is still getting heavily targeted, but he's the primary option downfield in this offense, it seems like, and expecting him to see a lot of Stephon Gilmore in this game does not seem unreasonable. I have moved. I'm in Texas now, Donnie. Thank you, Damian. Appreciate the question. Thanks for coming. Timothy Clark. Thoughts on Detroit running back Jefferson? He's the one I would prefer of the two. And it could go either way, right? But that seems to be, kind of the direction this had gone all season. He was next man up, right? So maybe the dynamic has changed with both the other running backs out, but I prefer Jefferson this week. Have another minute or two for more questions. Appreciate your time as always. Once again, footballdiehards.com, your one-stop shop. Check the FSP staff rankings. That'll give you all the latest information. That's where I refer to the algorithm I refer to, where we start our rankings each week. They are adjusted to reflect the latest developments. Also, if you look up, find your players on the rankings, you'll see a link next to them. If there's new information, you'll be able to just click on that link and get the latest article on that player. More stuff coming in throughout the day. I'll be doing my injury overview video here shortly that focuses on just the skilled players, kind of lets you know what you need to do, what you need to know heading into Sunday's games and what kind of decisions you're going to be facing. Also, Casey Joyner, the football scientist, proud to have him on board, is doing his Saturday injury report /sit start, which he updates again Sunday morning. Digs a little deeper on the injuries. Includes more defensive players, offensive line plays that might have an impact on the guys you want to play. So check that out. John Lob's Cash Game, the Line of Scrimmage show tonight, 7 p.m. Eastern time on the site. Tomorrow morning, Sunday, the pregame show with Jason and Jamie. Jason Brady and Jamie Calandro will be on, as always. We'll be doing our thing on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio, Jeff Manns and myself, for the 2 hours leading up to kickoff. So we'll have you all covered there. And thank you. Very, very kind words of you, Don. And Scott, I start my 2022 draft prep as soon as the season's over. I make a list of the players, the most disappointing players, and I start figuring out how they can be better next year and how I can get value on them. Yes, Jim Coventry, a great guy. Fantastic, smart character, and just a great dude. All right, everybody. That's it. Week 14. Let's go. It's a tricky one. Hope we've talked some things through, and we'll do it again next week. Next week, I'm going to be at a different time, though, because our NFL radio show is moved to an earlier hour, the hour that I'm doing this. So I haven't decided. If you have an opinion, put it in the chat. Do I want to go earlier or do I want to go a little later? I'm thinking right now a little later, but I'm open. So if you drop some comments in there, it would probably have to be 2 hours earlier or I think 2 hours later. So it's going to be one of those. But you'll get an email on that. I'll put it in my Twitter feed at Football Diehard. So check that out. 3 p.m. Eastern time would be great. That's kind of where I'm leaning to. Let me check my time. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm leaning to. So we'll see. Sleep in a little later. All right, everybody. Thanks a lot. Good luck this week. Hope all your leagues are big wins and we've made all the right decisions today, or at least All right, thanks, Anthony. Appreciate the time and the attention. Again, hit the subscribe button here on the Football Diehards YouTube channel, and more stuff coming. And keep the comments coming, and I'll be watching to see what you say on the
Honestly, I
timing.
feel
But
like
I'm getting the
clusters are better
already.
than positions.
See you.